cable is too short for my presentation. Dear colleagues, distinguished guests and friends, ladies and gentlemen, all of the historians agree on the extraordinary role played by the Padua University on the development of medical knowledge. On this presentation, I will consider its main contribution to the fundament of modern medicine. As you know, Padua was the state university of the Republic of Venice. On this presentation, I will consider its main contribution to the fundaments of modern medicine. Here we see the portraits of some of the most prominent researchers that during the century illustrated our university. We see Alessandro Benedetti, Andrea Vesalio, Realdo Colombo, Gabriele Falloppia, Fabrici d'Acquapendente, William Harvey, Bernardino Ramazzini, and finally Giovan Battista Morgagni. We will talk a little bit on some of them. So the first goal is to summarize the main contribution of this university to the fundamentals of modern medicine. And the second point will be to consider the philosophical attitude behind these advancements. With the Venetian expansion of 1405, Padua became the site of the State University of the San Mark's Republic and gave its main contribution to advancement of medicine. We will briefly outline some of this character, as I said. In Padua, studies had assumed a philosophical direction that emphasized the empiristic content of the biological works of Aristotle and favored, as a result, the observation of nature, an essential aspect of the revival of the anatomical investigation. In this background was situated the activity of the Preveselian anatomists in Padua, and in particular the teaching of Alessandro Benedetti, who at the end of the 14th century advocated the necessity of dissection in his book Anatomice, of the direct observation of the human body in the formation of the physician. Here we see a quotation from his book: "I urge everyone, both apprentices and physicians or surgeons, to visit such a theater, which should be attended with solemnity at least once a year, because it is there that we contemplate the things from life." On a practical level, he realized the construction of a dismountable anatomical theater aimed to an improved instruction based precisely upon objectivity. This was the cultural climate that surrounded a young Flemish, Andreas Vesalius, upon his arrival in Padua. It was during the 5 fruitful years spent as a professor of surgery and anatomy at the same University of Padua, where he graduated in medicine, that the De Humani Corporis Fabrica was realized. Published in 1543, this work is unanimously considered the fundament of modern medical research. As we can see from in the frontispiece, Vesalius worked alone at the dissecting table. You see that the professor steps down from the chair and put his own hands in the cadaver. The 3 individuals, lector, dissector, and ostensor, taking part in the traditional demonstration of Galenic anatomy, as we can see from this picture from an incunabulum of the end of 14th century, disappeared. These 3 characters disappeared, and the professor stepped down from the chair to perform directly the dissection of the body. The original character of Vesalius' teaching arose from the fusion of Homo sapiens and Homo faber into a single investigator. This is a typical Renaissance concept. Not only the intellectual power is important for the mankind, but also the so-called manum munus, the gift of the hands. So Homo sapiens and Homo faber. In this revolutionary book, the dissected cadavers are illustrated according to the ideals of Renaissance beauty, with regard to the principles set forth by the Venetian school of Titian. Doubtless, the illustration of the brain, that as a neurologist of my specific interest, are extraordinarily realistic, possessing a naturalism that was previously unknown, as we can clearly see by comparing a selection of them with the representation of this organ given by Berengario da Carpi only 20 years before. We see on the right the brain as represented in the Fabrica, and the brain as represented, the best representation of the brain before that of the Fabrica, by Berengario da Carpi, just 20 years before. You can notice the strong difference in the realistic reproduction. The way had been paved. After Vesalius, Columbus followed, who first described the small circulation after Ibn Nafis, of course, but he didn't know, of course, the work of Ibn Nafis. It was an independent discovery. And later Fallopius, who gave outstanding contributions to the knowledge of the female reproductive system, tube fallopi, and to the knowledge of cranial nerves. This time is really the golden era of the University of Padua School of Medicine, as is documented even today. If you come to Padua, as Professor El-Bashir did recently, we visited many places of Padua University together, you can see many coat of arms. In fact, more than 3,000 are still on the walls of our university, and they represented the coat of arms from all over Europe, from Scandinavia to Spain, from England to Greece. It is the golden era of Padua Medical School, attended by many foreign students who here converge from all over the European countries, and pour cause. In fact, in the same year when Vesalius De Humani Corporis Fabrica is published, Da Monte introduces for the first time the method of clinical instruction at the bedside at the Hospital of San Francesco Grande. The critical attitude of the anatomist is transferred to the physician in this way, teaching at the bedside of the sick. We pass from the research to the applied research, to the clinical side. In this century, Padua reaches an indisputable supremacy documented by such events as the institution of a true scientific vanguard structure on the cutting edge, the first university botanical garden, Hortus Simplicium, and the first permanent anatomical theater. Established in 1445, the botanical garden allows the ostensium simplicium, that is the demonstration of the real plants, developed from the lectura simplicium, that is the mere literary description of the subject. So we pass from theory, from the book, to the real thing, to the demonstration of the true plant. This is the reason why this called today Orthobotanicum, but the true name was Hortus Simplicium. It is devoted to the growth of the medical plants, is established for that purpose. Erected in 1594 by Fabrici d'Acquapendente, the anatomical theater is the material expression of the Paduan anatomical tradition at its apex. It became the model of the demonstrative teaching of anatomy in various European universities. So that similar structures were to be erected by pupils coming back from medical studies in Padua, in such universities as Leiden, that we see here, Copenhagen, Basel, Uppsala. Among the other great accomplishments of Fabrici, we remember the description of the Venus valves and the collection of colored anatomical paintings which he left in his testament to the Venetian state. For this anatomical atlas, Fabrici is recognized as the first to sense the importance of colored illustrations for anatomical preparation. This is a very, very important point, because besides the artistic value, these pictures are real expression of the aim of the Padua Renaissance Medical School for the realism, the objectivity. In those days, it was impossible to get a colored print. So the only way to add the only missing point, we had already the perspective, we had already the possibility to give the idea of the dimension with the copper engravings, but the color was missing. So Fabrici d'Acqua Pendente had prepared these paintings, which are unique, in order to get the last element which would put closer to the reality, the anatomical reproduction. Fabrici was also the teacher of William Harvey, the discoverer of blood circulation. We remember that booklet, the Esercitazio Anatomica de Motu Cordis Sanguinis, a very tiny one, published in 1628, but one of the most important books in the history of medicine. Attracted to Padua by the reputation of its university, the young Harvey got here his degree in medicine in 1602. After returning to England in 1628, as I said, he published his outstanding contribution that is recognized as directly connected with his Paduan education, since here he learned of the existence of the valves of the veins from Fabrici and of the quantitative method from Galileo. These are the two pillars of the Harvey's discoverer of blood circulation. The existence of a unidirectional organ that would really would contrast with the Galenic hypothesis of the blood of movement considered to be like a tide, and also the quantitative method that would not explain how so much amount of blood expelled in the unity of time from the blood would be consumed and how it would be produced. It should circulate. Dear colleagues, in the Taming of the Shrew, William Shakespeare has one of his characters to express for the great desire I had to see fair Padua, nursery of arts, and I am arrived, and I am to Padua come, as it hath leaves a shallow splash to plunge him in the deep, and with satiety seeks to quench his thirst, his scientific thirst, like Vesalius did. We can say because Shakespeare said this because in those days Padua was considered the prominent European center for medical studies. We can say that the University of Padua became nursery of arts, of course arts intended in the ancient way, not only from an artistic point of view, but as a research, human realization, technical realization. We can say the University of Padua became nursery of arts thanks to its tradition of free research. But let's go back now to the roots of this outstanding accomplishment. The decline of the Roman Empire and the establishment of a dichotomy between the terrestrial and the celestial world, and between the body and the soul, started a downfall in the interest for the observation of nature. Gradually, after the year 1000, different factors contributed to a new attention focused upon the physical world. A relevant cultural event was the rediscovery in the Western world of numerous classical books. In particular, the knowledge of the so-called physical writings of Aristotle revived interest in the study of nature, opposed to themes centered on afterlife. In his poem La Divina Commedia, Dante Alighieri quotes Avicenna and Averroes. This latter as the author who wrote the vast commentary, fundamental for rediscovering Aristotle. This is an authoritative evidence about the importance recognized already in Middle Age to the pivotal role of Arab thinkers in the renaissance of Aristotelian philosophy. Evidence of Muslim influence in the University of Padua can be argued looking to this engraving of the well-known Inculabulum Fasciculo de Medicina, printed in 1494. The majority of the volumes there represented bears the name of Arab authors, among them Rhazes, Mesue, Avicenna, Averroes. I edited a monography on the manuscript Fanzago. This is a further document on the Arab influence at the University of Padua. I edited a monography on the manuscript Fanzago of Padua School Medical Library. Dating back to the late 14th century, this manuscript deals with cauterization, ancient therapy reported in vogue by the Islamic scholarship. We had also this morning our colleague Maria Blanca Viesca referring to the cauterization used by Al-Bukhazis, and yesterday some other speakers quoted this kind of therapy. Moreover, we have to remember that for centuries the canon of medicine of Avicenna was among the textbooks studied in Padua, as in many European universities. But let's go to the core of the influence, Arabic influence, Islamic influence on the dawn of Padua University. In Padua University, a relevant Muslim influence can be traced back to the end of the 13th century, so to the very beginning of the medical school, to Pietro d'Abano, an icon character who is considered the father of the Padua Medical School. Physician and philosopher, he had stayed in Constantinople to directly study the medical works of classical antiquity. He also visited Paris, where he taught medicine with resounding success. According to him, the object of the researcher is to unfold the natural phenomena in a natural way, in naturalibus naturaliter, without recurring to direct divine intervention. As an expression of this renewed interest for the nature, throughout the course of the 1300s, the dissection of the human body began to be performed in the northeast of Italy. In Padua, Pietro d'Abano himself performed the first local dissection. It was carried on a body of a pharmacist who was deceased for having ingested a mercury. So it was a first forensic autopsy, we call it today. Some scholars deem that Pietro d'Abano, whose principal work Conciliator Controversiarum que inter philosophos et medicos versantur attempts to converge abstract reasoning and empirical observation, brought with him to Padua the thought that followed Aristotle's teaching as interpreted by the Arab philosopher Averroes. Said line of thought, named after him as Averroism, announced the doctrine of double truth, which, by stating the separation between faith and data obtained from the study of nature, allowed the believer to overcome the apparent contradiction between the revealed word and scientific knowledge, and therefore protected the freedom of investigation. In conclusion, Averroism seems to have been one of the foundations of freedom of thought, at the origins of the outstanding accomplishments of the medical school of Padua, expressed in the motto Universa Universas Patavina Libertas. Paduan freedom of thought for everybody, everywhere, which identifies this university in the course of its history. Thank you very much for your kind attention.